Okay, welcome back to the 428th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, April 14th, 2022. And this is the second half where we have a Q&A questions for Mr. Keshe. And people are welcome to raise their hands, the attendees here. There's a function to raise your virtual hand, then we can open your microphone so that you can speak. And I noticed there's a hand up, Mr. Keshe, from you, actually, which is something I've never seen before. I wonder if it's an inadvertent hand that we get once in a while.
I think it's inadvertent hand. It's my soul raising its hand.
Well, you finally get your chance to ask a question, Mr. Keshe. You turn the things around.
Yep, we can bring it down. Lower hand. I lowered my hand. My soul asked the question and got the answer. Anyway, let's see where we come and what we do.
Yes. Well, we have a number of questions here. I think I'd like to start actually with Cristiano from Brazil sent in a question from Darian, and who says, in the 425th Knowledge Seekers Workshop, a knowledge seeker asked a question about the emotions of the soul of man and the soul of physicality, and how the heart translates the emotions of the soul of the man. But we have both souls and they need to decide together. So my question is, how can we discern if this emotion is pure from the soul of man, like a communication affirming the truth, or from the soul of physicality, where it may still have errors and confusion because of existence on this planet? How to perceive this difference?
Experience. By experience, man up to now has always listened 99% of the time to emotional physicality, because he can respond to it, he can live with it, he can understand it. And every now and then the emotion of what we call the soul come in and does something, and we call it by accident. Something happened, because that we cannot explain, because it wasn't part of the emotion of physicality. Whenever you say, oh, this happened coincidentally, or it was just by fluke, go back to it and see, did you ask that question from your soul? And then you start opening up to understanding which one is which, and would all become the same. And this is the only way you can do it. Every time it's like, oh, something happened by accident, go back and analyze it. Where, how? And then you see the connection to them and say, this must be the soul job. And then you become more and more reliant, and the more and more you develop it. There is no accidents. You're put in a position, and in a way by your soul, by the conduct of your feelings of your life. And then you have to live with it, or you have to understand it to go to the next step, to be able to understand more the process of creation. Many times, one of the processes that we talked about this very recently, why do you sneeze? Where does the energy directly go from the nose, passes where? And what faster reaction you can get? Some theologists understood this, but you go to the doctors and they try to explain to you and everything how the nerves work. How come suddenly you stop and say no? Something stops you from doing something. How come out of nowhere you start doing something which is opposite to what you've done in your life? Or what do you do? Because the soul has taken over the decision. That's for you to see. You have to understand it and then develop it. And then you understand which one is from the emotion of the physicality and which one is from the emotion of the soul. And gradually, you leave everything to the dimension of the soul. Everything to the dimension of the soul. And you go by testing and testing. And we go through the same process. And then you understand how souls work, how things come. We had an occasion this week. Within 1 hour, one of the members of the Universal Council was aware of the action of the Keshe Foundation, what we did in the background. And I wrote to him, this is amazing, just an hour ago, we did such a thing and you come out of nowhere. Because the soul is aware. The function of the Universal Council as a soul has taken its dimension to accept responsibility for its language and for its nation. And then you live that way. You go by it, and things, it's just building a trust. What Keshe Foundation has gone through in past 6 months, 8 months, if I would have been in the way that I used to run in the business time 20, 30 years ago, I would have had a heart attack, I would have died. But no, I learned through the structure. That's what the soul, this is the time. When the time comes, on the right moment, it will complete. And the people who get tested along this way, it's been a harsh time, but a beautiful time for the Keshe Foundation. But only 1 or 2 people who are close now. We've done everything to bring that change. And it's all by trusting in the soul, trusting in what we do is for betterment of humanity, not for us. And you try, you rely on it, you understand it. This is, I'm here, I have a physical life, but my job is what I have to do as to support, to be the instigator, to be the initiator, to be the developer of that condition to bring in at this moment of time. The Israelis are on the throat of the Iranians. You mention Iran to the Israeli authorities, that's the end of the world. You speak to any of the Iranians, clergy, whatever Israel, this is the end. You your biggest enemy. But when you elevate their souls, they will eat on the same table very soon, because they came from the same table. Power and money and what we can do has separated man, soon become wise to it and they walk away from it. But those who are, and they see in the middle, is the responsibility to make that initial step, to bring that change, even though it might look so hard. It's one way of working and trusting what we do. When it happens, it's not time for it. So it's no restless night. It's not for me to put another something in the bank or get something else. It's not time for mankind. It's not ready for it. But we know it's getting ready for it. It's just coming to the last leg of it. And a lot of knowledge seekers are standing fast. They're aware of it. They're suffering with it, but they're standing fast because they know it's there. It's just about to come. Be it in China, be it in the US, be it in Mexico, be it in Brazil, be it in Australia, you know, we all who run and work standing fast because we know when it comes, it brings that change. There is so many opportunities has been created by the war in Ukraine. You're not aware of it because you just listen to what propaganda comes from the Western world. But if you watch the way we do, there is so many opportunity in different directions has risen by Ukraine position. And I look at it as a positive step. I know some people are suffering, some people are getting whatever, but in a way, it's the end of the battles of the religions within one religion. And again, has brought what we see hidden ways of doing whatever it is, blaming the others to do whatever. And none of it stop. The change in administration in the kingdom, United Kingdom, is necessary for world peace. Because the Privy Council and the British government as a Kingdom of Britain is instigator of many wars. But it has to be done from inside. And it has to be done the way they step back on. And it's in the process has started, as we know, a long time ago. We have to understand what this position brings us. The end of kingship, the end of anybody being higher than others. You'll be put in, you do wrong, you are committed to what is to be right, by the places without animosity, or you'll be the instigators in the White House that underneath you burn the fire. All has to come up. It's the time of cleaning up, and then we'll see the positive things which will come out of Ukraine situation. Amazing things, especially the way we work and we see it. But always say we trust it to the soul. And that always is there because he cannot make a mistake. To a lot of us, situations don't, and is there something wrong? But these guys, if they're not cleaned up where it's getting cleaned up in Ukraine, we'll have more and more of this in a few years' time. Battles of who is more, who is less. I pray for the soul of the, what are called the legions of Vatican, that they come to their senses. And the same with the church in Moscow. But that praying, that elevating their soul, has to bring them to announce what I call the end of Christianity. We'll see it. End of Ukraine situation will bring Christian world to that point. And you will understand very soon why. The same as the Islamic world is waiting for Mehdi. All has happened, has to happen within a frame of time. That they all come to the same position. And that's the time of the maturity of the man. We don't want, by process of trusting the soul of the man, to overnight the clergy just change the name to another and carry on with abuse. We want them to close the church doors that nobody goes in to be abused, and leave the mess they created over centuries behind those doors. The way we saw when the Church of England started selling the churches. The physical abuse of the man which came forward was unbelievable. I was in it. We were the first people in the front line with it. Buying a church and they don't let you to demolish it till their own people demolish it, that the number of children bodies buried within the church cannot be shown, that how much abuse was done. In the front line, we saw how Church of England had to change position, not knowing that this is what was going to happen to them. As they didn't care anymore because Church of England is returned back to Vatican. That was the shame of the, what we call Protestants, not the Catholics. And they managed to somehow keep it off the records, but it's still there. And the same will come with other things and how that is. We cannot go in abusing the soul of the man in one way and soul of his godly man that it has to come to a point of change, and they'll get knowing from inside. And the only way it'll come when mankind understands which soul to listen to and why the reason is. When you hear you have to do something, then you judge it. I understand why. We are all part of the same process. But learn one thing. If you listen to the soul of the man or the soul of physicality, Always ask, because you have to have the consent of the others. And if the consent is given, you have done no wrong. Even though it might not be to the benefit of the others, because they are the ones through their own process might see themselves as the losers, but the same is part of the process of the development. Even you want to ask, you ask. And then you understand you always work in the right way, in the right. You have to learn. It's the process we all learn slowly, and you come to it to understand it, and you trust the soul. Sometimes the soul of physicality, because it knows every physical dimension. Sometimes the soul of the man, which tells you the position of the totality of the physicality and the structure of the bigger structure. This is what we have not understood. The soul of physicality is to protect you in the physical dimension. The soul of the man is to protect you in the dimension of the universe. And the sooner we understand this, the sooner mankind will be free and understand how to position one in respect to the other, in what position and what condition and when. Then we become mature to the process of what we call transmutation, or what we call resurrection. Christ could have walked away from the cross, but he knew he has the power. So let them do what they like, because I know what I'm going to do. I went up the cross with the Christ, and I know exactly what happened. I know how the transmutation took place, and how and where, and how the thing took shape. The body never went missing. Christ went through the dimension of the soul, of the physicality, and the soul of the man, because he knew, he was taught. He became of that knowledge just prior what you call the Last Supper. The knowledge was not given to him to the last minute, more or less, because he was very joyful chap. And he always thought he'd get away with it. But when it came to the point of what we call resurrection, or you call it a transmutation, the knowledge was given to him and was told he can use it once. The last time, the Last Supper, if you understand it, is the last time he ate as a prophet. That's what the Last Supper is. Not the last time he ate with his people. You always put it to a definition of something else, because then it has meaning. Because it was a time when he left the body of the man, the last meal as a man, as a prophet. And when he came down, he became a man, and he took his path. And now, maybe for the first time, we understand what the Last Supper means in the dimension of Christianity. Nothing more, nothing less. The rest of it is what you like to talk about. It was the last time he ate as a prophet of God. And that was it. It was the Last Supper he had, and he walked into, and he was fully aware. He bargained for it because he loved two women. And it was given for the love he had. Maybe now you understand all these hullabaloo about the Last Supper. He accepted it because he knew the dimension of what he'd done was beyond the dimension of acceptance by his soul. He didn't go through the path which Moses went and start all sorts of wars and killing. He decided he's done enough. He brought the change he wanted, and it's time to live and transmute from one to another. He listened to his soul and the soul of physicality, and he took that transmutation, or what you call whatever in any language. Any other question?
Okay, thank you. There's I'd like to go on to a question from Antonio, and then we'll go back to a couple of more technical questions. From Antonio, says, thank you, Mr. Kesh, for your kind words today to those who are celebrating Easter and other festivals. My question today refers to the born-again Christians who I assume have an experience of their own souls, but many attribute it to another soul, such as the Christ or Krishna and others. What are your thoughts on these experiences?
I never understood what the reborn Christians are. Who came up with this terminology? Then we have a reborn Jews, we have reborn Muslims. If you can be reborn in one religion, you can be born in anyone. And as we know, they do. They're what they want to say. But what does that mean? What is actually not the physical process, the soul process of it is. The soul doesn't get reborn, it's the same soul. Somebody, because of an experience, realizes in an accident that he can die, and he hasn't said or loved his wife or his child, and he comes home because he survived the accident, becomes the best father, the best husband in the world. Is it a reborn husband or reborn father? Or needed that experience to realize where it's done wrong? And what name do you put on it? How many of you have been through that process? I'm going to go home and enjoy my family and I stay, whatever. Because tomorrow might not be there. What name do you put on it? In the name of the religion, you become a reborn Christian? Or in the name of your wife, you become a new reborn lover? Or in the name of your child, a new reborn father? It's us who have chosen whatever we like to do it. It has no meaning to me, never had. It's just that you go for the second time to be baptized. Why does that happen only to Christians? Or is it a very good way to get some more money to the church? Because now you go and you pay again. It's a business world when it comes to these things, but it has no meaning. I don't understand it. I never understood it, how you can be reborn, where you already, just because you experience something, you become a reborn husband because you didn't know, or you become a reborn father because you jumped an accident. And are you going to be a good father that you might not be there tomorrow? Fear of fear. Any other question?
Okay, we have a couple of technical questions for you here. First one from Jefferson from Brazil. It says, good morning, Mr. Kesh. My name is Jefferson Modesto, and I am from Brazil. When I was a teenager, I used to get together with 2 or 3 cousins to make objects move and answer questions through those movements. For this, we used a table, a glass, letters, and numbers arranged in a circle on this table. Before we started, everyone would hold hands with each other and do a minute of meditation. Then we started the experiment. It was as if we were talking to a soul, and that soul responded by moving the glass. Based on this experience, and considering that every human being is a magrav, and what we were doing was connecting these magravs in a stellar configuration, my question is, 1, if we make 3 magravs and connect these magravs in series, the magnetic terminal of the first connected to the gravitational terminal of the second, the magnetic terminal of the second connected to the gravitational terminal of the third, and the remaining terminals, gravitational of the first and the magnetic on the third, hold each one with one hand thus forming a stellar configuration. Will I be able to create these forces, or will I be able to integrate my soul with the souls of the magravs and travel through the universe, through the soul, or through physicality with this system? It's a pretty long question. I don't know if you
Oh, it's
got
a
all
very
that.
simple question. He hasn't understood the purpose of magravs. Very simple. And that's why is half energy, half matter, and because not understanding, looking for an answer from us. Do you need a wire to connect magravs? Do you need wire to connect magnets on the table? And what happened if you put 3 magnets on the table and 1 magnet in your hand? Move the magnets outside and see what happens to the magnet in your hand, or move the magnet in your hand and see what happens to the magnet outside. Do you need a wire connection? Do you understand the true purpose of the magrav system? Then I think you get your answer.
I've got a perfect little video that I found the other day that I made that I forgot about. Let me share it here. That might illustrate what you were talking about with magnets, actually.
Yeah. You used to a lot of these magnet things, huh?
This one is with, as you can see here, it's a series of flat magnets, and 4 of them in a group to form sort of a magrav shape with the 3 on the outside and 1 in the middle. And there's 4 groups of these, and one of them is in the center. So I'll just play the video and you'll see how it goes here. So that's it, basically. It's a couple of different things going on. As you can see, the first configuration with the magnets in the center is like the magrav configuration in many ways, and it's like the free plasma in the center, you could say, or looking at it as 4 different points of the tetrahedron, depending on how you look at it. But in any case, you can see the positive positioning of the way everything, the configuration holds that center in place there. But then if there's enough agitation, it goes and it releases that configuration into a lower energy configuration with the 4 units all in the same spacing, and they maintain that position. And if that gets agitated even more, then it ends up going back to an even more lower energy example as the tube, or the lowest form of its energy, you could say.
Yeah, it depends how you see. This is still matter state connection. Magravs are not matter state connection. They are field state connection. There is no matter condition to them. And this is the beauty of it. And this is what It's important for us to understand. There's a difference between matter state fields and a plasma state field. We have converted with the MAGRAPs the matter state field into the plasma state field. And I feel that none of the knowledge seekers understand this. Doesn't matter how much we push it. And this is the problem, part of the problem of the understanding this knowledge. Once you have a matter state, when you've nano-coated, you have moved into the cosmic direction, fields, and a matter together. When you go into the gas state, you're in totally plasmatic condition, in universal condition, but on the influence of the inertia of the fields of the planetary system. Knowledge seekers have not understood this, especially creation of the gases. I'm sure in a coming time, scientific world and knowledge seekers come from the world of the universities and the others in a very short time will open this in a massive way. Because when they publish a scientific paper about it, then because it's written by a doctor or a professor and somebody who's got a PhD out of it, we can accept it. But they don't trust their own intelligence. You should understand. Something I have to say here to our knowledge seekers. Our knowledge seekers in Finland, in Germany, and other number of places around the world have contacted the Keshe Foundation in respect what we do and what we can do with your groups of knowledge seeker scientists. Keshe Foundation has looked into these structures. We are still looking into these structures, and we soon will announce what we're going to do with this kind of bunch of scientists who are sitting grouped together and they're developing different, or they want to do different type of developments in different aspects of the technology. We have a big group in Romania. We have other groups in US and Mexico and Brazil. We'll bring you together in a very specific way. We're discussing it recently with some of the key members of the Keshe Foundation, that how we can or how we see to bring you knowledge seekers together to work, but still be independent of their own national language. We have a position now, because we are analyzing step by step of whatever is happening, what can happen. We can send you MAGRAP Bureau. It has money under the fly unit to your country, and then you have to find universities or whatever and bring in the scientists in to do. And then what will going to happen to this system sitting somewhere till somebody make a decision? We are looking at the possibilities of opening our institutes, part of it, to the nation by nation, language by nation, to be part of, to do the research collectively in one place. Scientists from Denmark, scientists from Germany, scientists from Brazil will be given opportunity, will be given a unit each, and then it's for them to collaborate with others outside. They can come and go, very much like CERN. You can come and spend a weekend, 2 days, 3 days here, there, to complete in what as a group you decide to do and share it with the others. And this way, you still have the independence of knowledge. You can go to your sciences. I'm going to Austria, or I'm going to Brazil, I'm going to Arizona. There's a unit there belong to us, and then we can share, we can take what you see, and then we make it a place that every unit gets used and integrated together. And even on the background of it, if you have a knowledge seekers who are that good at it, we can some sort of help you to do that, transport and coming and back and going forth and whatever, till we see what. This way, the knowledge seekers in one place will share the knowledge, even though they work in the independent direction, and we have collection of 10 or 20 enhancement units in one place where the knowledge can be shared freely. Till when your government or your authorities, universities come to accept it, then we can take the unit back to your countries and the rest of it. But this way we allow the process of the development be by the knowledge seekers and other scientists from universities to come in to share. And we are considering this position, and this is one of the fastest ways sending a unit. Somebody will accept it in university. You still carry on with the government, but your units here, they can come and see, they can analyze it, and whatever it is, they want some more units or one unit will be done. But this way, knowledge seekers and the scientists work together to achieve what do you call it, the spread of knowledge. We are now developing, we are in the final phase of developing the reactors for the space flight for the enhancement units. This process most probably will complete within the next few weeks, and then they'll be placed in the what we call flight systems in April, May, to be ready for the first test in June. And part of this work is to bring the knowledge seekers from world institutes and the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers together to work in this manner. And I hope our teams will put the last touches to the flight system in the next few weeks. Then it'll be what you call placed and shipped, and we go to the next phase of the flight testing from 6th June as we promised. And this process will carry on, will be developed, and we'll see to what extent we can manage to what we call push the knowledge seekers to work with the universities and institutes inside the Keshe Foundation Institute. This way, we'll see a rapid development and extension to it. We have offered the same process with what we call State of Israel. We have offered the same thing to China and to Iran. And in so many ways, neutralization of the science and technology in the hand of all the what we call knowledge seekers, concentrated in one place, we think will be bring faster results than what we see. A lot of you knowledge seekers are scattering. They're trying to find somebody somewhere in a university or government to accept it. As we are working as one nation, we establish these centers, and we put your reactor from your nation, your enhancement unit flight system in that position. Come in, you can work weekends on it, 3 weeks holidays you take from work to complete the process, and whatever else is the freedom of your knowledge seekers as a group. We don't allow one person, I want to come and do this. It has to be collectively. We know there are a number of groups around the world who would like to do this. But this way, knowledge seekers share the totality of the knowledge and then becomes as one nation, and not sitting somewhere dusting. These things cost huge amount of money to sit somewhere for somebody to decide. This way, the knowledge seekers will start by nation or whatever, what district, and the governments will join in, and scientists from the other places as you publish your papers and show how things work. And just give us a few more days, and then we will make announcements. This means Foundation has to find huge premises that these things can be carried out. It's not just that tomorrow we can do, and finding places in population centers to the sizes of these kind of testing is not very easy. And then you have to find the rest of it to put it together. But this we see as a rapid evolution of scientists to come and go and develop and extend the knowledge together. Please, there is something which we're seeing a lot. A lot of knowledge seekers just walk into the exhibition center. They travel from different countries or whatever to be in the exhibition center when it's not allocated time. Please contact the Keshe Foundation where you can do the booking for your time. because it's not somebody can come and just look and go. We have people there who take 2 or 3 hours to explain, to show the connection, the science and everything. That brings everything together for you. And we cannot handle more than 10 to 15 people at a time as you go through the process. And Keshe Foundation now is moving to, we're considering, we'll know more in the next day or two, this next week, that we already have 2 sessions a day. For 3 days, we're extending it to 5 sessions, 5 days a week, 2 sessions a day. And then we are expanding because a lot of knowledge seekers cannot come in during the week, working. 1 or 2 weekends a month, we open on Saturday for knowledge seekers to come around the world to see, to be part of the exhibition center. And this way allows a lot of you to be and to come to see. And we ask you, please make a reservation, get in touch with the exhibition center, and get to know what is happening and when you can come in, because then it's not a zoo to come and see and go. It has to be understood, and people who are there to explain to you what it is. And you're getting a lot of German, Austrians, and the others coming in, but please make sure you book your time coming in. And then we'll see how much we can extend. And it cannot be more than 1 group at a time. Maybe if they push it 2 groups at a time, but it's interfering between the 2. And this is a knowledge scientific, what we call tour, not something to just come and see and go. Get in touch with the exhibition center, the people who organize it, and book your time. And just don't jump in, I'm going to install admin. We had this occasion a couple of times. We still respected the asked to come back for the afternoon session or the morning session the next day. But try to help us to be able to translate the knowledge or transfer the knowledge completely from us to you. Any other question?
Okay, we've got another technical question in YouTube from Peace Plasma. My question, Mr. Keshe, is what if you take a copper wire and wind it around a quartz crystal to turn it into an orgone quartz crystal and stick it in a 50 milliliter tube of GaN CO2 and zinc oxide and COHN? What will this do?
I think a lot of people did that. Do you remember when we started talking about the crystals?
Yeah, it does sound quite familiar, actually. And you were showing crystals. Geez, that was a few years ago, probably 5 years ago or 4 years ago, something like that.
These things have been done. I think you got to go into the archives and see what was left as information by the people who did it.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah.
I would suggest the person seems to have a pretty good understanding about what they want to do. Well, they should simply do it and see what happens.
Yeah, but Andrew, tell us back what happened.
Yes, exactly.
We see some responses in golden age of cancer still appearing, some people doing things in some places. But you have the testimonials, bring it to the testimonials and explain it all, disclose it.
Yes, they can bring it into the Keshe Plasma reactor group as well. We can discuss it there. It's a good place for that kind of thing. And the testimonials workshop, which is every second Monday every month.
Yeah. Let's see. What else?
Okay. I think you've answered the question from Andy Ross. What is the update on this spaceship launch?
We are still going to test on the 6th of what they call it, June. But the systems are built, and we are developing the last phases of the space reactors. Even I was in the lab yesterday. It's something totally different than what you've seen in public, and we have changed the reactors altogether as space reactors and all sorts. You will see it most probably. It will be disclosed around June, and then we go for testing. It's the prototypes is getting set up and done. The testing getting done. We're still waiting for some of the chairs to be concluded. We have placed order if they can do it. They tell us. Comes from Iran, and hopefully they can deliver on time in next 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, that we can place them in. It's beautifully done by the Iranian people who showed us what they have, and we have given the order for 400 seats to them. The first 100 units flight systems are there, but they have to adjust something. A couple of pieces needs to be removed, and if they can achieve that, and the backbone to what the skeletons are built, and hopefully if they deliver to us what is supposed to be, will be beautifully done. I hope that what we call the Iranian team can deliver this to us on time, because we had to look for something without any metals to it, but at the same time to be in line with what the foundation is looking for. This is the picture of the seats, flight seats, and the control is slightly different. And we hope Yusuf can get this sorted. Everything is what we call technically by the team in Iran is ready to go. These are the chairs that you will see, and it is in line with what we want. And in a way, you can see the mass production on them is there to be done. And there is no metal used in these chairs. We have a couple of technical pieces to do, and you will see it. Any other question?
Okay. See, there was, we do have a hand up here, but first, the appropriate question from Antonio is other question is, when the flight system is shown, will it be visible? For my understanding is it cannot be detected, and therefore can it be proven to those who need to see it or to follow its movement with our instruments of today?
Wait and see, isn't it?
Wait and see if we can see it or not.
We can see it. It is a very interesting. We just designed, what do you call it? We altered the design, this addition to it. You got to understand, our manufacturing side is progressive development, and you cannot put all the information in one go on the table. So step by step, as understood more, what do you call it? We add to it that they understand the next step. And now the space reactors has reached more or less its final position. And then a couple of things to be done, and then we'll see the results and the effect. The factory is set up beautifully. I was there yesterday, and you have a production and you have an assembly line, and they are doing the two. And apparently there is no knowledge seekers on any of the production. They just cover them. and are producing the systems. And what we call the first head units has been prepared to leave for Arizona in the coming days. And you will see it in what do you call it, in the mass production in the coming days. Will come to see, you will see the what do you call the vision units, which carry the Keshe Foundation, what we call knowledge behind it, and in a very, very sophisticated but beautiful way.
Just to clarify for people, because there's still a question from Saeed, who's thanking you, Professor Keshe, for bringing freedom and hope to the world. My question, what are we waiting for on June 6th?
June 6th, we tried to test the first flight system. And it's a very abnormal system. It has no control. We finalized the control system between the soul and the system and the craft. Yesterday was explained how it works for our team to be able to put it together and to be assembled. It's a very unusual control system, and we hopefully should be able to see it working before June. And in June, we try to create the first flight system. We might succeed, we might not succeed, but the whole thing is getting up to that position. And it's a matter of getting the units for Arizona and getting the units for NASA in America and the one in Iran, all coming together at the same time. There's a lot happening in the background. There's a lot happening in the background. The problem we have, let me explain something. The problem we have is not, there's a lot of problem has been created by what we call people who we kicked out of the Keshe Foundation. And it's taken us nearly 6 months to sort that problem. And it's taken so much energy and effort for us to be able to do this. Those who we kicked out very recently in the last couple of years out of the Keshe Foundation have created mayhem with lying and cheating and everything. And it's taken us to prove to the governments and to the banking system how much lie has been put in. And in a way, it's good because now they turned towards us. And that effort took a lot of energy in respect to development and expansion. But it's over now. Hopefully, we have come to an end of it. But this is what is, you hear us trying to fly, but you cannot imagine how much has been created outside deliberately to create mayhem, to create, in a way they said they take control of the Keshe Foundation. The whole aim was that I become the owner and the boss of the Keshe Foundation. Keshe Foundation is owned by US public. I'm just a servant. I just provide the services that becomes on the street. But the amount of damage has been created by them, especially the Belgians, the ones who we kicked out, is enormous. But we have managed, if we proven to the government, to the banks that, and the beauty of it is now they want to know more. It allows them to open their eyes that what we missed. And as one guy told me, Mr. Keshe, nobody served you better than your biggest enemy. Now we understand what we have to do and what is about to come. Then we can plan for it, bank-wise, financially, in the European Central Bank and the rest. It's amazing how much energy we spent past 6 months, a year, to, in a way, not to prove, but to show and to explain. And that energy took a lot out of, especially time we have to do. And now it's over. We are reaching the point that we can go to the next step. And the developments and spread of the knowledge and technology will take a new course. They had to sit and read hundreds of pages which we submitted and understand it. To do these documents, it's not easy to sit and explain. You receive instructions from World Bank, from the European Central Bank. You don't oblige, you don't complain completely. Word by word of it, they lock you down. Same with the governments, they lock your companies down. We had to go through it. I have spent time and God knows so much energy with the Keshe Foundation team in the background, without them knowing or knowing it, have done a lot to do this. But the beauty with it is now that we have the banks behind us, we have the governments behind us, and now you'll see the changes. These changes should have come maybe 6 months, a year ago, but we were not ready for it. Now we are ready for it, and we have the support. And this takes time. We should have the scientists from different agencies on the table weeks and months ago. Now it's changing. We are not defending, we are explaining. Because we done nothing wrong. We brought a new technology. It's for them to understand, and they're understanding it very well. And thanks to a number of top management of the Keshe Foundation in different countries, we held everything together to go through this rough time. And it's over. And you will see the benefit of it in the coming months and years, how it was done. And it forced the Central European banks, number of the governments in Europe, to look at the Keshe Foundation in a new eye and to understand what is to come. Especially with the situation in Ukraine, what we have put in the front with, and what we see will become, is damage. We were looking at it with our Chinese team this morning. 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, we were changing around about 7.8, 8.2 RMB to €1. Today is 6.9. The European economy has collapsed 15% in a few weeks. The strength of exchange shows what is happening to us in the West. And Keshe Foundation has a lot of solutions. And the government start looking at it because it's an option to bring employment, to bring back a lot of conditions. We still get problems. We still have to prove the technology in different ways. But it is you as knowledge seekers who keep everything in the front, and you're doing it. We see a lot of work done in different European countries by knowledge seekers. Now you get the support of the Keshe Foundation. You're in that position, hopefully, to move on and bring that credibility which you look at it as an institute, as a structured scientific organization which can back it. And this is part of what is the Keshe Foundation busy with. Space unit are there. Everything else to produce the backing of it is there. But we have overcome a lot of problems. And if we would have been like 2 years ago with people with us, everything would have been destroyed. They called the heads of the Keshe Foundation and told them, we're going to take over and we'll be the new owners. Foundation has no owners except you as knowledge seekers. And the Belgians wanted to be the owners of the Keshe Foundation. They thought they have the biggest spy mole, or whatever you call it, inside the house, and they get it. We can give you writings, what has been said, but it belongs to you. And the knowledge has been done. We've done our work. We still carry on doing. And we see a lot of benefits. A lot of positive things can come out of Ukraine for the Keshe Foundation. for humanity in a way of bringing things out and changing things. And it all depends on how, from next week or two, we push these things through and we bring it out. We took a lot of pressure, and what I call full transparency of the top people in Keshe Foundation brought us through that change. We believe we are committed to it. And this was why Keshe Foundation was going from pole to post and post to pole for years, because inside they were preempting our moves. And now there is nobody to preempt it. It's done by knowledge, just solid, tight, and it's going forward very much. We were betrayed for years from inside. And now it's not there. And you saw the mayhem for 2 years of it from the start. It brought a lot of benefit to us, and it took a lot of energy, but now we are back on track, hopefully in the news. On the 6th of June, we test. Before 6th of June, we test the flight systems. And we are not looking for pilots. We are looking for those who have a clear soul understanding to become the pilots. And we are not advertising. It's the same as Universal Council members. We are not asking anyone to become yours. It's your soul who has to make the call to serve humanity. And the pilots will do the same. We will see. We take step by step. I thank especially the Austrian team, and the Arizona team, and the Chinese team, and the team in Brazil, in Nigeria, and Australia, who stood firm behind and pushed things through and carried on, and hopefully we're out of it. But you will see totally the benefit. 6th of June is our target to make the first flight, but we still tried before. Everything is in hand, everything is getting done, and it's an amazing control system, an amazing flight system. We show you the way. If it fails, then it's for you as knowledge seekers to perfect the job. We have no hesitation to test, because it's there to be tested, it's been developed to be tested. And if it fails, we have to find out where and how and what needs to be added. And 6th of June is our time. Because we can do it next year and then the next year, but at least 6th of June, we see our weaknesses. We see if it does and how it does, what conditions it creates. What can we interfere with, or can we interfere at all? Can we create that left-hand motion? We have evolved the technology beyond what you see in the exhibition center. Is not even what the technology is about anymore. Scientifically, it's 100 years ahead, but it's not in public. It will not be in public. And one of the reasons we decided we'll keep the station centralized, then we don't allow others to break into and trying to see to and steal from us. The unit was shipped from Greece to Keshe Foundation headquarters, which had a small, actually very basic technology in it, and they stole. We received an empty envelope. And the Austrian Post tell us this is how we received it. It's the same as they did with our, what we call service, shipping from Holland to Italy. They destroyed it and they gave us the destroyed box, if you remember. The enemies of the foundation are very big because we touch everything. They steal our post, they empty our post to see what's in the post. Any other question?
Okay, before we go to our hand up here, let's just like to read from Cristiano from Brazil. It comes from Alexandra. Mr. Keshe, I have no words to express how my heart feels at this moment. The only way I can express myself is in tears, eternal gratitude. Your love is infinite. Thank you for not giving up on us.
Thank you.
Okay. And so we have a hand up here from Alexander. If you could go ahead.
I want to tell you something very interesting from Brazil. You are from Brazil, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They published an article on Facebook that the gentleman, we have copies of it, that it says Mr. Keshe is a reptilian, and I know it because I speak to his wife and she told me he's a reptilian, his ex-wife. And we're getting all the information that Mr. Keshe changes and his eyes changes and he becomes reptilian. And we can hear you, Rafael, in the background. And it's very interesting that in Brazil, because the Keshe Foundation has grown so rapidly, how they have made the reptilian out of me. And the guy, we can publish the Facebook page on it. It says, I speak to his ex-wife and I know because she told me. And it's very interesting. And then you understand how they still carry on in what we call damaging or trying to spread, open up the solid background of what is the truth in teaching in what we call Brazil, because it's growing so rapidly with the work of the knowledge seekers. So we thank you for the what we call knowledge seekers of Brazil and the hard work you're doing. But I promise you, if I was a reptilian, I would have shown myself by now.
Okay, well, we have Alexander. Do you wish to open your microphone there? I see Raphael is here as well. Hello, Alexander.
Alexandre, você está aí, Alexandre?
Sim, sim.
Pode falar, por favor.
Bom dia, senhor Mr. Keshe, bom dia, Rick, bom dia a todos, obrigado. A minha pergunta é relacionada às civilizações passadas. Gostaria de saber do senhor informações sobre os Sumeras e a tecnologia do passado, se era tão avançada quanto qual o senhor tem mostrado para nós atualmente através do plasma.
So, Alexandre would like to know about the past civilizations, if the technology of the Sumerians was so advanced as this technology that you are trying to bring to us today.
What is interesting is the knowledge, the understanding, partially understanding the work of the field of the universe, even they didn't have magnets, was understood by different tribes or those who could see, understand the work of the plasma. Some, in contact with the patterns of the universe, learned something, but they didn't have the intelligence to, so they copied part of it. It's not that the race of the man never touched understanding of the field motion, what we call plasma, but they went on the material side, and those tribes or groups who understood it could not take it further, or for a limited time they used it, and then when it became opposite to the interest of the rulers, they were silenced or were taken off and they taken out of the equation. We see part of these technologies in a sporadic way across in different parts of the planet. Some learned by the man himself, some was given to man, but man never understood it, but they copied it. And so it's not that one race did something, whatever. You got to realize one point. The knowledge we give in the Keshe Foundation covers the totality of the knowledge of the creation. In way, as you call it, medicine, food, energy, transmutation, transportation, structures of the materials, how to transmute. It's a totality of the package. And you don't understand every part of it, what to do. When you look at the enhancement system, flight enhancement system, in it, you have a flight system, like Earth moves. In it, you have the feeding station, which gives you the food body. In it has a system which takes what you don't need. It's there. In it, there is a system. If you need to produce material, you can switch into it. So in it, we have the energy system that we absorb energy from the universe. We have made a mini cosmic structure. In the other times, you might see, oh, this tribe could do this. So they had maybe a group came to understand, but they cover a very small part of the knowledge, but we see it. It's not that man has been ignorant to the knowledge. Those who understood it, the part they understood, maybe a small piece of agriculture, a small piece of something, they've developed it and left behind, or they could not pursue it because the knowledge and intellect was not there to carry it down. But now it is. As much as we say the knowledge is not exclusivity of universal community and man is kept out, it's the same with the human race. Different races have achieved certain amount of knowledge gain, but in a very small field, or maybe a couple of fields. And this is the problem. We see it. It's not, we cannot say man has been ignorant to everything of it. You look into part of the, what we call South American knowledge, how they used to live, and where they got the knowledge from. How in part of Australia we see part of the universal knowledge. Because when a man sits alone, he thinks he becomes wise if he tries to understand the work of the cosmos. You don't need to be Galileo or somebody else. And this is part of the problem. It's not exclusivity of one somebody. Yes, they might have found a solution to understanding the work of, maybe in a different way of how something works, but we don't see totality to cover everything, where the man can become independent, man can become peaceful. And this is what you receive in the packages of the knowledge we give, because then you decide which one you have. You want to use the energy side of it, you want to use the food side of it, you want to use the transportation of it. All the knowledge is given for one man to do everything. And you don't need to go somewhere, because you can educate yourself, you can test yourself. And this is, we see it in partially, yes. We see a lot of the development in Egypt. The Egyptians, part of it, then became very, very religious, very inside, introvert to understand the work of their body. They understood the work of the universe, and we see some of the work in their structures, in their writings. We see a lot of it, huge amount of it, in the Iranian culture, in the scientific world of the past times, understanding, Sufis and the rest. We see the same in China. Because when you concentrate and try to understand and unravel, you understand more and you can tap into, but then you have to see how you can connect it to everything else. And you have, as knowledge seekers, access to all that gift. Even some of the knowledge you received was not available to Christ or Moses or Muhammad. You've been given that much more. the knowledge you're given at the moment is equal to the knowledge of the universe. You have to decide on what much you put in. I said 270 is the first time we brought that structure. Now you know. 200 something, 170 something teachings down, we learn a little more what was said in 270 knowledge seekers program. It's not exclusivity. And do we repeat part of it as it is totality? Yes, you will see some of the workup, maybe a tribe here and a tribe there, but they were more individuality. If you look at in South America, why they understood and they changed the lands with was totally nothing in it to a fertile agricultural land by burning the wood, creating nanomaterials, then with it, with the presence of the salt, the ash they made, they create gases, and they could cultivate in a black land the best beautiful vegetation. Because it wasn't nanomaterial, it's the salt and the ash which created the nanomaterial. And now you understand with the composite materials in the wood, the copper and zinc or whatever, created gases, energy fields that the plants could grow where it couldn't grow before. I did that in Tiham in the house. We had a part, nothing grew. I kept on putting the ashes in the right way, and we started seeing vegetation growing where nothing could grow. Just wanted to prove I understood how the people in South America created life, but they could see, they couldn't understand the knowledge. But now we can interpret. Did they have a knowledge of nanotechnology and gas production? Or by observation, they understood just something. And they followed it. The only thing they couldn't follow in a way is the creation of water. That's why they moved out of their positions, because they could not. They mastered a lot of things, but they couldn't master how to feed themselves or how to create water. And when the water finished, we see empty cities. Now, if you look at the new programs which are coming out, how they're mapping out the Amazons and finding the castles and how they went back to bushes, it all came down to that process of lack of water at a certain time they could not reach. Maybe just for a decade, and they moved out. We don't find skeletons, we find empty cities, which means the knowledge was there, but they couldn't carry on. Any other question?
Yes, we have a hand up here with Dariush. Dariush. Just get that, allow you to talk there. If you can open your microphone and go ahead. Dariush.
Dariush Zafari.
Okay. Do you need a translator, or are you good with English?
Persish بره. Farsi, Persish.
Did you say Farsi?
Yeah, Farsi.
Well, maybe you can ask your question directly to Mr. Kesh.
Thank you, merci. Yeah.
Mr. Kesh, do you want to try Farsi, or shall we get a translator?
Yes, I have no problem with it. I had my phone on the mute. I'll try to translate it. ببخشید شما این هفته رفته بودین لینز؟
بله من لینز هستم هد پروفسور.
چه کاری داشتی؟
بله من به خاطر مشکل تنفسی که دارم و چند بار سر کلاس سوال کردم شما نمیتونستین جواب بدید. با خانومم اومدیم لینز که امکان داشته باشه اینجا یه به شکلی با شما تماس بگیریم. پریروز نمایشگاه بودم و از طریق آقای ماریون تقاضا
بله.
کردم چون ما اجازه نداریم شماره تلفن شما رو داشته باشیم، ایشون زحمت بکشن و به شکلی یه ارتباطی با شما
بذاریم براتون تشریح کنم. ما به هیچ عنوان در قسمت پزشکی کار نمی کنیم. اگر هم دانش رو داشته باشیم باید از طریق دکتر برامپور باید بریم، از طریق ایران.
بله.
تنها راهی که میتونیم کمکتون کنیم. من از طرف طبی دست نمیزنم، حتی اگر نیستم باشیم. من از اونجا اومدم بیرون، بهم تلفن کردم، ولی به هیچ عنوان ما در قسمت طبی مثلا شخصا دخالت نمی‌کنیم. در قسمت فارسی آقای دکتر برپور در تهران هستن که میتونید باشون تماس بگیرید. ایشون مشاور کشاورزی طبی هستن که میتونن راهنماییتون کنن.
بسیار. ولی غیر از سوال‌های پزشکی یه سوال دیگه هم داشتم. می‌خواستم ببینم یودو چجوری میتونیم گنس یودو تولید کنیم؟
توی تیچینگ ها هست، باید پیدا کنید. اونجا همه چی گذاشته. بپرسین از ایران، کشاورزی ایران میتونن کمکتون کنن.
ما سر کلاس سوال کردم کسی نتونست جواب ما بده.
براتون سعی میکنم یه جوری پیغام بدیم چیکار باید بکنم.
تشکر میکنم. اگه
خیلی
وجود
متشکرم.
نداره خیلی ممنون. ببخشید پس
خواهش. Let me translate to you. This is what I said in the past. The gentleman has been with his wife to the Linz Exhibition Center yesterday out of nowhere the day before. And they expected to see me to tell them what to do and how the problem will be. Can you silence it, please?
Yeah.
Can you switch the microphone off for me? And they were expecting to come to Linz to see me that they can get a medical advice. Keshe Foundation, and I do not give medical advice in Austria or anywhere else. We have doctors which are appointed by Keshe Foundation, and we work through them. We advise the doctors, they understand it, and then translate it to a medical system. And I advise the gentleman, there is no way I can help him or advise him. And this goes back to our doctor in Iran, Dr. Barapur, who they have to go through to get advice what to do. Keshe Foundation in Linz or anywhere else which we work out of the factories or whatever, we do not get involved in medical practices. We made that very sure. We learned that how they can use it against us from the, what I call the villains and the hooligans of Belgium, from the king downwards. So do not come to Linz and hope that you will see maybe me or somebody else and you maybe can use the system. The systems in Linz are not set to be used by anyone. And secondly, there is no training for it. Unless we run trials, which is done by the supervision of the doctors. And this gentleman, I told you, they just walk in and they expect something to be done. We do not do. The team, especially in the exhibition center, are not equipped or trained to use or do something. And even if we are in, we never get involved in what we call medical practices. We have doctors in the West, we have doctors in Iran, in other places that we consult and they advise. That's what I explained to you earlier on. People just walk in. And this cannot be because we're still making these temple jobs and people come in to see whatever. And coincidentally, I just left the building when this gentleman turned up. I received a telephone call that are people here. We do not get involved in these kind of things anymore. We tried to help and we saw what they did. And we learned that the help has to come through the scientific world, through the doctors, and we trained them. Thank you very much. What's next?
Okay, next is Salamia has a hand up here.
Yes, Rick, thank you very much. Hello, Mr. Keshe. So nice to hear from you. Thank you very much for your teaching for today. I have a question related to European Union, because we are part from European Union. And exactly what do you think about problems of European Union in the future and how we can solve it after this conflict or during this conflict? what exactly are these problems? Energetic crisis, economic crisis, sanitary, I don't know. What do you mean exactly? Thank you very much.
We learn a lot, actually. We got to learn from European community without the influence of the British and Americans in it. European community, as a community of some 29, 30 nations, works beautifully. Is the ideal structure of independence but collective work. You Romanians have been benefited by it immensely. We've been given a 1 billion budget for part of the central computing, what call it, IT section of the EU very recently in the past year or two. Shared, I think, with Czech Republic or one of the other nations. The European Union works perfectly, has worked perfectly, till is used as a tool by the British or by the Americans. And this is one of the reasons the rebel has been put out, the British were kicked out of it. Because now we see it. Europe, you got to live in Europe to understand the beauty of the European community. We drive from Portugal all the way to, let's say, Ukraine, to borders with Russian, some of the ex-Eastern Bloc, and we have no borders. Mainly use one currency. We don't see armies. We don't see all sorts of other things we see when you go in Africa from one nation to another. And before Corona, it was one free run. Now they stop you for Corona to check if you have a Corona certificate or whatever. Nobody in the world can do this. There's a lot to learn from the European Union, thanks to the French and the Germans and the Italians who instigated at the beginning. But when you have these kind of conditions, centralization has brought some pitfalls. And it's very hard to keep such a big family in what you call it, in order in every direction. Or we see the present, there's a huge problems where the Ukrainian has risen for Europe, and Europe will learn from it. We are going to be short of food because Russia and Ukraine were one of the biggest producers of what was needed for food production, unknown, one of the major producers. We're going to be short of gases. We are going to be short of a specific gases which is needed for certain part of the industry. So we're going to see huge problems in the what we call in the West. And as I said to some of our top management of the Keshe Foundation, even in the past 24 hours, this has given an opportunity for Keshe Foundation to rise. What is becoming a shortage is what is in our hand to show and receive massive investments to be able to replace, to bring in. And we are working on the biggest peace nation as one nation is a European state. And if we can achieve this in Asia, if we can achieve what has been achieved in Europe as one continent, one nation, we call it the European community, the same in Africa or in South America. We have this as a United States. We have 15 nations, speak one language with different accents or different combination of nationalities. The process is not bad. It has worked because methodically, step by step has been brought in. And when a new member has been brought in, they just didn't bring in new members. Because I was involved in this, with the members of the European Community for Greece for a while as part of the Keshe Foundation, in the European Parliament and understanding it, became very wise how is done the German way, I call it. They just don't bring a nation to be a member of EU. They analyze the weaknesses in the structure of the country, economically, politically, financially, infrastructure, and a committee and committees work on this. Romania wants to come into EU, the roads, the health system, the other bits, and how it needs to be financed, how much finance you can bring other countries to be able, who's participating, what will this bring to the community? They saw a strength in the communication, computers, IT is part of the EU, so with Romania. So they boosted it. Romania is now one of the leading IT countries in EU. They cannot do the car manufacturing because the German is covering that. So they don't create a competition for themselves, but they allow the speciality in each group that is become integrated part of everything. It's a beautiful situation, but what we learned from Ukraine side is a lot of things, weaknesses in the structure of development. We saw the shortage of what we call chips. German car manufacturers, without Corona being in it, went into part-time production because they cannot get enough chips from outside. Now they're looking at to produce the chips themselves. That will take 15 years before system come together. We saw Clinton invested $6 billion in Blu-ray to bring it forward. And they invested in the chip manufacturing. And Europeans fell into this security that we always get it, and now they don't get it. German economy is suffering heavily because for a time, and even now, Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, and Audi, and them lot are suffering heavily. They're affecting the economy of the EU because they don't have microchips. Each machine uses 20, 30 microchips, and then you have to get it, and there is no, and it's controlled by the Chinese and the Russians. So they're controlling the West. West has to learn. But this gives an opportunity to the new technology to come in. If you understand it, when I tell you it's time for us, if you understand the way now we develop the system control and the flight system, we can get by with if a chip. So we can give a replacement. The same in the agricultural side. But as I said, the time wasn't right for it, but now the time is right. Things are getting set for it to be done. But overall, you will suffer for maybe 10 years. And if the Ukrainian situation, as the Americans said, they're waiting to see a warfare for years to come, then there'll be years of shortages in Europe. On the food, we saw in Germany, was it last weekend, the weekend before, they announced on Sunday that from next Monday, the prices will go up between 20 and 50% in supermarkets. How much of it was carried out, how much is going to be filtered through next. Buying food and grocery in Europe is becoming, for some people, unaffordable. These pressures we'll see, but maybe it's the time to introduce the other part of the technology into the system. We have good connections within the governments in Europe in different ways, and we start exploring it now that we have hopefully sorted out part of the problems which was created unknowingly. And you will see it. The changes are there with the corona, with the shutdowns, everything else. It showed the weaknesses within the structure, and Germans and the French are excellent, especially Germans, in when they see a weakness, not to jump in, sit down and analyze and see how they can do it, how they can prevent part of it, even with the energy control, which was done by Russia. They took control of the Russian investments in Gazprom and the rest. The talk of nationalizing it, or will be done, or is getting done, that they protect the nation. Germans are very good at it. Americans jump in and then they think. Germans think and then they jump in. And Europe is pretty safe. And just give Germans and the French a few months, they'll find a lot of solutions to a lot of these things. There'll be some hardship in Europe without a shadow of doubt. We'll see shortage of food, shortages of some raw material, but as expected. As long as we don't get massive diseases spread in Europe in the next 12 months, say 2 years, well, it should be handled. But Europe is a perfect reputation of what a Keshe Foundation should achieve internationally, worldwide. Creating, because 1990s, when 80s, when I used to travel from Holland to France, going through Belgium or going to Italy, all these border checks, armies, and the rest, it's all gone. Because then with it, how many soldiers have gone, how much reduction in police, or what do you call it, military forces have come down. It's gone so low that Europe cannot put together an effective military force because it has no borders to protect for themselves. There are skirmishes of soldiers around Europe in different borders. We don't have more or less any full-time armies as the numbers we used to see 20 years ago. And that has created a condition of finding a solution peacefully. The Germans will find a solution and they are working at it. We see it in the background. Any other question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Keshe.
Any other question? Shall we call it a day?
Maybe we can squeeze another couple of questions in here. We have Jefferson with the hand up here. Perhaps he can have a go at it, and we can wrap things up if you like, Mr. Keshe.
Hello, Rick.
Hello, Jefferson. We hear you. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Keshe. Good morning, everyone. This is Jefferson Rodrigues from Brazil. It's always an honor and a happiness to talk to you, Mr. Keshe. And I'd like just to clarify one doubt that I was talking to a friend. Is not related to your wonderful teaching today, but when we are talking about the field strength from the matter state to the plasma or to the nano state, I'm sure that you have already given it in one of your teachings in the past. So if you kindly can bring the light on this. You use it, for instance, for copper from 63 to 59, used around 8% of reduction in for plasma. And the iron, it's around 25%, as I understood so far. So we were wondering if there is a relation with the number of neutrons that are free from the difference of the atomic number that locks few the same amount of neutron. And there are some materials that we have many more available. Is there any correlation with this availability of neutron-free neutrons, or any kind of proportion. For instance, if you go to silver, that we have 107, what would be the reduction when we nano-coated it to create two different fields, so we can create another field from the element that we wish? If you kindly could clarify this proportion of reduction, if I made myself clear in this question. Thank you, Mr. Cash. Always thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a beautiful question. There is no reduction. No, there is no reduction. There are 2 points to understand, and it goes back to the fundamental understanding of the creation of the original plasma. The plasma, or the amount of the energy in the plasma in a plasmatic condition, which is on the Earth, is created in our atmosphere. When it comes in touch with the inertia field strength, will dictate how much of the plasma of one element stays active and some stays inactive. When we talk about inactive, it means linking up, that they do not participate in the total energy plasma, or that's in a matter state. But in a Ganser state, we look at how the fields are shared with the others, that the minimum amount of energy as is needed, as like an isotope of an element is needed. But if you look at the GANS production and conversion, energy field effect from the matter state to a GANS, we find 30% sometimes reduction in the field strength, but the same material. This comes to understanding of field interaction. You can, when you have neutrons in the matter state as an isotope, because you have the electrons, or you have increasing number of the neutrons in the seed, it shows that there is something absorbing energy from the environment, or something releasing energy to the environment. And that release does not allow the holding on to the field energy of neutrons to create the nucleus. Neutrons are what we call in a state of balanced fields in the present knowledge, but neutrons are connectors of the fields. When you don't have an extra neutron, means the protons are strong enough to hold on to, so you don't need the neutron to be the balancer. And we see some isotopes, because of this process, become what we call decay faster, because the ultimate goal is to bring a stability. In the nuclear industry, in the matter state, we talk about neutrons. In the new plasma nuclear technology, we speak about the energies. And those energies don't convert into isotopes without the presence of inertia, in a way, reference point. When you get a composite material, like in a bar, you have a 56, 54, 58 iron, whatever, 60, is because the inertia at the point where iron was created had the composite plasma in his presence and it converted it into matter state. It's not that there was a short of energy. In a way, manifestation, which is magnetical, is all the same, but the gravitational is slightly different. So we get the presence of iron as matter isotopes, but different gravitational field within inside has kept what we call plasma at bay and then transformation into matter state as isotopes. We look at the isotopes, totally different in the plasma technology, field strength combination. One is field, one is the interaction of two fields when the matter state is completed. And you don't need to have always the same neutron because the inertia itself is a composite of different fields. So it changes some of it. It's like you cannot, for example, let's say, find iron 40. But in other places in the universe, you can find iron 40. Because the inertia at that point, magnetic field strength, allows to create a matter which has the behavior of iron, but carries not enough even proton and electron in it to make the 56. It's a field manifestation because you work deeper inside than outside. You're much stronger, you're much closer to the center of the plasma than you're outside, depending on the dimension of the release of magnetic field. This is part of understanding of creating composites. First as a plasma and then changing them to matter state. We have achieved that, and we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago about agriculture, where the fields, in a field can grow corn, wheat, and rice, and each one receives its own fields. So the way we create a composite CH bond and amino acid connection bond with the CH to allow a new configuration for the protein of the seed. You got to understand the totality. And I can talk about this for and teach you for years to come. Creation of composite and isotopes without even having a single neutron in the nucleus. The example of it is hydrogen itself. You have no neutron, but you still have a state matter. You're not in tritium. You're not in deuterium. H2O. How come? What is the neutron here? Because the environment of Earth allows the behavior of water, but doesn't allow the behavior and manifestation of another water unless the condition is right for hydrogen to link up with the oxygen. You look at the plasma first, and then you look at the inertia interaction, creation of matter state. You can create plasma strength of the gold without the single neutron when you convert it into matter state. If you manage to increase the strength of the protons to hold that structure of the gold, it'll have a different dimension. And that's the only way you see it as a dimension. We've seen it, we know this knowledge with the hydrogen, tritium, and what do you call it, deuterium. You don't need nitrogen or neutron to create a matter entity condition. you've seen that in production of CO2 in gas boxes. We create the condition of a gas without any gases by interaction of the field. We don't create the material, we create the condition of it, field strength, and it absorbs. Then it changes. It's literally, if you understand it, it's like a moisturizer, what call it, absorbing moisture from the room. When you buy the machine, you don't feel any moisture in the room, but you see water gathering in the pot. Dehumidifies. It's the same process. You create that condition for the moisture as a vapor or as a gas in the room to convert into the matter state. You create that condition of it in the system. You just blow it through, and that's called converts it to the right temperature. You can do the same thing in the world of the plasma without the presence of neutron. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cash. Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Question.
One question you could answer for, get it straight here. I can find it. Just find it in YouTube here. There's a question about the MAGRAV unit, the Universal Body Enhancement Unit being available in Australia. They're wondering if there might be some date or place that might be accepted in Australia.
We have one doctor who tried to do it outside Australia and is still struggling with it, as far as we know. Or he's trying to get it in some sort of sorted out. And nothing at the moment. With the present government in Australia, we try to keep as much as possible away till situations are much sorted out. We have a plan, yes, we'd like to put MAGRAV systems in the boundary nations of Australia, but not in Australia. This is the discussion and the plan by the Australian knowledge seekers and the people in that. They know exactly what I'm talking about. These discussions are going there for 2 years.
Okay, and another question from Mara Sonia, I think Italian. How can we start to use your, calls it a depuration system of water that I think you have just proposed to the Italian state? Does that ring a bell? So maybe a water decontamination system?
Yes, yes. This is a technology we have offered and tested. It needs time. Italians have to find a solution around. The report has been given, and we're working in the background. We might get something about the next few weeks, month. But you got to understand, it's not just Italy. The problem is worldwide, the contamination. Two, if you understand the gas production, some of the process of the gas production can create decontamination, actually desalination more than anything else. But you have to understand what you're doing. And then decontamination, absorption of extraction of, and all sorts of things from the water. Should I call it a day?
Okay, sure. Yes.
Thank you very much for today, and hopefully we meet again in another place, and hopefully we find a solution for a lot of things with the work of the Keshe Foundation and knowledge skills. Very much, Rick. Thanks for today, and see you hopefully very soon.
All right, very good, Mr. Kesh. Thank you once again for another amazing Knowledge Seekers Workshop, number 428 here today on Thursday, April 14th, 2022. Anyone has any questions left over, you can bring them into next week's workshop. And speaking of next week, we have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice coming up on, let's see, the Tuesday, April 19th of next week. And people are welcome to join with the members of the Universal Council to be part of participating in that workshop. That starts at 4 p.m. Central European Summertime. Okay, that's all I can think of for announcements right now. Thanks to everyone for being here today and for your questions and comments. And of course, a big thanks to Mr. Kesh for always being here for us for these workshops continuously every week for the last 428 weeks in a row. Okay, thank you, everyone. And we'll go out with, I think I will play one of my favorites, the Universal Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit music version. If I try to find it here. There we go.